Hello and welcome back to Cocktails with James. I'm James, your host, and today I am joined by Connor, who is the face and the idea behind the brand new TikTok channel, The Wandering Gays. And his content is, I think, is taking TikTok by storm already, only since April. And if you ever looked up gay hotels near me at 2 a.m., I'm sure he's probably reviewed it, or he's probably looked at it, or he probably knows about it. So please welcome Connor to the podcast.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Super excited to be here as well. I've only been on the world of TikTok for like 3 months, more or less. So I'm still kind of new to it, which is weird because I was always in the world of social media, but in Instagram and kind of behind the scenes. I was never the face. So to have my face out there, especially having ADHD, all my internalized intrusive thoughts, I do cringe at every video I put out, but it seems to resonate with people. So it's been a lot of fun, I have to say.
Well, authenticity is the root to everyone's heart these days. No one wants a flawless, glamorized look at life anymore. So I think that's what you do so well, and your authenticity shines through. And that's sort of why I wanted to obviously speak to you and get to know you. Obviously, we've never spoken before, only a few times over TikTok Messenger to arrange
Yeah.
the podcast setup. But besides that, literally, this is the first time we're meeting. So I'm excited to see how it goes, and I'm really looking forward to it, to get into it. So what I want to do is give you a brief overview of what we're sort of going to dive into,
Yeah.
just to prepare yourself. So we're going to be looking at how you sort of grown on TikTok and your virality of the videos that you're pushing out, the travel chaos, the gay tips, the gay safety tips, a stalker, and even talking about your background in marketing and how it's potentially helped you grow so quick, because your analytics, from what I've seen, are amazing
Yeah, it's like,
in 3 months.
yeah, thanks so much. When I look back and I see every day, like the growth and the following, I'm like, how did that happen? I thought when I started, I didn't know if anyone would care. I was at a point actually in April where the job I've been working in Barcelona was in the travel industry, but like a lot of jobs are doing now, they're remote, and then suddenly they sneak hybrid, and then they want you back in the office. And I didn't have my apartment anymore in Barcelona. I'd already was back in the UK. I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to do this. I've always made excuses, but after some of the stuff that had happened over the last few years in my life, which we'll get into, I was like, I want this summer to be for me anyway, traveling wise, doing all the things I wanted to do, traveling all the places I wanted to visit. And I just woke up in the night one night, as you do, and just made a logo. And I was like, well, I've got Palomas Pride booked and I've got Madrid booked. So I'm just going to film it and see. And then one thing led to another. And before you know it, you're putting out 4 or 5 videos a day. And one thing turns into another.
Is that the ADHD brain at like 3 a.m. thinking, I need to start
Oh,
TikTok?
yeah. It's like, and you have to do it right now. Otherwise, the idea, like, if you put it to bed, you wake up in the morning and be like, well, that was a bit. So if I do it in the moment, I'm like, well, actually, you know what? That video actually resonated with a lot of people, and I'm glad I put it out. Because if I leave something too long and sleep on it, then I usually go into that intrusive thought process, as we all do. And I'm like, is it a good video? And that. And I think when you've got something authentic and you just follow yourself, whether it's cringe or not, I always say on TikTok, whatever social media platform, you've got to let go of the ego, any form of shame, cringe. And as gay men, we've built up this idea growing up, with our own ideas around shame, masking, all these different things, conforming in jobs and different people. And so going out into social media, it shows up again. And you have to really learn, I think, to lean into being yourself and permission to give yourself authenticity, whatever it means to you. And it's definitely a journey that we all go on, because I did not grow up that way. I'm from a small town. I don't know how far we are from each other, but a small town called Telford in Shropshire. So it's in the West
I know
Midlands.
Telford. I'm in Wales.
Yeah, so we're pretty close to each other.
Mm.
So I grew up in such a small town. There used to be more sheep than people growing up. Now it's built up quite a lot through the years. Like growing up, I didn't really have um, like any gay role models, queer identity. I met that through school. Ironically, two of my best friends, my two best lesbian friends, we all united through. Remember MSN Messenger back in the day? That you used to just play those little games.
Probably, I think you probably use MSN more than my age group maybe did, because I'm 28. So there was like a slight crossover, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
it was like Facebook and Instagram was the
Yeah,
way
it's like
forward.
it went very fast. It's like when I was in secondary school, everyone was on MSN and then MySpace, and then Facebook came very quick, like around 2008. But a lot of us in school, so my two best lesbian friends, I'm still really close to them to this day. We bonded through our secrecy, and they were kind of the people I turned to, 15, 16, when we couldn't be out and open, and we stayed friends to this day. But other than that, in my hometown, it was always a very, I grew up around the idea of masculinity from my father was very pushed in a not healthy way. He used to take me to
Mm,
Aikido lessons, all the football, everything I wasn't into, whilst I was sneakily
mm.
buying Hilary Duff's Come Clean CD and hiding it in the drawer. My dad was pushing me to do football and all these other things. So it was great to meet this sort of community, even if it was one or two people through school, just MSN chats. And that sort of evolved, I think, through the years and really wanting to connect and go on my own journey, because I think we've all been in that point where we've grown up in environments where there's some sort of internalized or externalized like shame around it. We're trying to navigate it. We're hormonal. We're realizing, we like who we like. And it's a lot.
We
It's
like
everything all at
boys.
once.
Why? Why do we like boys?
But yeah, you can probably relate. It's tough sometimes when you're going through like secondary school, all these feelings and everything you overanalyze, and it can show up later in life as well. As I've realized in the world of social media,
Mm.
still second guessing yourself because it shows up again in corporate. I was in corporate for many, many years. I only left this year in April, and all the masking and sort of role playing, and we become like the world's greatest, showmen sometimes, putting on these
The
different
world's
characters.
greatest actors.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I get it though, because especially in the era of authenticity, and as the late great Beyonce once said, because I love Beyonce, never ask permission. No, never ask for permission for what already belongs to you.
yeah,
And authenticity is very much, I think, something that belongs to the LGBT community a lot, because
yeah,
every single day we have to show up as our most authentic selves, and we have to be ourselves in order to progress in every area of in every level of society, I think. And every day you're almost potentially coming out, which is an area of authenticity, because you're being yourself all of the time. Whereas I think some other groups of people don't get that as such, because they don't have to. I don't know, it's almost like breaking the mold every day, isn't it? And
yeah,
it's the same as being in school.
yeah,
Same as being in school, I can translate and I can relate to that so much, especially with being in school. I'd be like, what are these feelings? Like, why do I not feel the same as these other people? Why is everyone liking girls when I seem to fancy these boys? But I'm being told I should like a girl, but also I'm being bullied because I'm more feminine than other men, but I'm just being me. And for me personally, doing social media has brought out my authenticity so much to the forefront that I now personally am so unapologetically myself that if you are offended by me, you're welcome, and
that's
I don't care, and I love doing it, and I love who I am and what I do, and I love that I do beauty, I do skincare, I do lifestyle. I'll share my chaotic day in life and bring other people together through a podcast now. And the name Cocktails is purely because it's meant to be catching. It's meant to be, oh, what does that mean? And it's also meant to scream LGBT. And if it makes you uncomfortable, have a listen and see why.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we all go on our own journey with finding our authenticity. But it's so refreshing, I think, for a lot of people. I imagine a lot of people come to you, whether it's with skincare, and I know you're very open as well about, with when it comes to what we go through as a lot of men, when it comes to hair as well, which I've been on a similar journey.
Yes,
I've
hair
been through
transplant babes.
PRP and all this stuff over the years, and I think it's very refreshing now that people like yourself are willing to be so open about it, because it once came with so much shame, so much stigma. We didn't talk about these things. It was all about finding the solution, but we didn't want to talk about the process. We wanted to be like, oh, this is the glamorous
Mm.
result at the end. But I think it's great that you're showing, what actually goes into a lot of these things, whether it's skincare, whether it's hair transplants, and a lot of these things as well. Because I remember, I go off topic sometimes for my ADHD, but I was going through an era like 25, my hair started falling out, and that was just when I'd moved to Madrid. and I tried every medication and the PRP and all this stuff, and it affected my relationships. Almost got a hair transplant at one point, and then literally COVID happened when I had arranged it, and so I just
Yeah.
backed out of it. And the thing was, I had a lot of fear and shame around talking about it with people because no one was open. And every day I'd be in the mirror like, I've lost another follicle. And I'd just come out of a
Mm,
relationship by that stage. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I think being authentic and open about a lot of things with mental health and the aspects of whether it's beauty or travel, hair care, whatever it is, people really lean into that because we're so used to for many years being sold a commercialized product, and people can tell when it doesn't resonate and ring true. And so getting to hear the real stories, sometimes they can be traumatic, sometimes they've been fantastic. You know, it's
mm,
important to get the layers that go on behind a lot of these things. And you know, as queer people, there's a whole another layer of that as well, because we're already navigating through our adult lives, unpacking a lot of the not necessarily trauma, but rediscovering ourselves, a lot of things that we dimmed through maybe our teenage years as we were learning to
yes.
navigate social situations. How much of me can I be? And so, as our, say, heteronormative friends are settling into their lifestyles, we're finding out again what makes me tick, you know, who actually am I? What do I enjoy? What have I been missing about myself? And I find that a lot of the last, even the last few years, a lot of parts of me that I sort of maybe dimmed because I thought it would make me and other people uncomfortable. Now I'm just like, you know what? I just put it all out there on TikTok stutters and stammers and all. I'm like, take it or leave it.
Yeah. And I agree. I think it's amazing that you put it out as you do. And to go and sort of, I'll try and reply to everything you just said because I agree with everything. It's almost like the air of celebrity, isn't it? For example, Kris Jenner, out of nowhere, she's come out and she's had a $300,000 facelift and she's hid that. All of a sudden, she looks like she's 40 again. You know, she's taken 30 years off of herself.
Yeah.
And people are desperate to know why and how she had that and who done it. And it again, I think that's where the culture of having things now like that to look good is it comes from.
Yeah.
And that's why I love to show everything that I have, whether it's a facial, it's PRP, it's anything cosmetically done. So for example, at some point I'm going to be having dental work done, which I'm going to fully talk about and and show the process of how that actually again isn't as glamorous as it should be because I work in the dental industry full time.
Yeah.
So I again, it's all about authenticity and bringing that air of honesty, and that's what I love being. And sometimes people don't like the honesty in the aspect of perfection, and especially being LGBT. I think, with I'll be honest, I am always in the pursuit of perfection for me,
Yeah.
not for anybody else. But I think sometimes that does stem into doing it to be the most desirable form of yourself for
Yeah.
other men
Yeah.
as well, which I try not to do. But I think there has been times where I'm like, okay, so maybe if I looked a certain way, maybe if I talk a certain way, maybe I'll be more desirable.
Yeah.
And it's finding and twisting it in a way of, okay, I want to do this for me because I love me. I love the way I look. I love what I do. It's for me and nobody else.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's very relatable because we all go through these different eras. Like I always say to my friends, you know, that the era where I was deemed the most desirable. So when I was in Madrid, I used to be in this really toxic gym routine, to be honest. It was very confronting. Get into it kind of, but when I moved to Madrid, you know, I'd never lived my life. I'd only lived it in glimpses, I always said. So I moved at 25, almost 10 years ago. And prior to
Oh,
that,
wow.
my life had been very much sneaking off on the train to Manchester and then a wild night out on Canal Street. And then I'd come back to Telford and go back into, you know, my day-to-day life, which I always felt like I was living my life in these sort of snapshots, but only getting brief glimpses into who I wanted to be. So I didn't know who I was, you know, sneaky trip to London. And I think a lot of that played into the travel aspect later because I was going on a lot of
Mm,
holidays in my early 20s completely on my own just to try and get, to be honest, a bit of gay action, some attention, hookups, whatever it was, because I couldn't get anything at home. And it was all the same five faceless profiles in my town. and probably still is nowadays. I don't use the app anymore, but going through that,
Oh, you don't? Good.
yeah, I just
Don't go
like
back.
I think what kind of happened is I went to Madrid and everyone was like, in my mind, drop dead gorgeous. And I felt so
Mm.
much pressure because I'd grown up only not only living my life in glimpses, but I felt like at 25, watched my other friends kind of go through the messy dates, the breakups, the love stories, even the marriages. Some of my friends were already married by 25. And
Kids.
meanwhile, I hadn't even started being messy in the club. I hadn't even started going on all these dates. And you start to see all these guys in Madrid. And to me, everyone looked like a model, six pack. And it put such a pressure on myself that I threw everything into this gym lifestyle. And I've always liked to keep fit, hiking, but in a very not healthy way for me because nothing was ever good enough, you know? And I was starting to lose my hair at the same time. So it makes you even more self conscious. And you want to experience everything all at once. I didn't want to miss a party. I was going out every week, 3, 4 nights a week. I'd be going on sometimes 3, 4 dates a week. And if you didn't text me back, I'd be
Ah.
like, it's because of my hair. It's because of this. It's because of that. I need to hit the
Oh.
gym more. And I think I put so much pressure on myself because I felt like I'd lost 7 years from 18 to 25. And I was suddenly in this big open gay city where I could be completely myself in Madrid. You know, I very much moved there with a suitcase and a dream with not much preparation. I went there for my 25th
Mm.
birthday, July 2016. And I came back and I was like, you know what? Get that fire door. I'm off. I'm off to start a new life in Spain.
Yeah, Gemma Collins, we love.
But it was the best thing I ever did for myself because nothing at that point was going to stop me. And I was like, I needed to make a big change. I'd finished uni, I'd studied, you know, in marketing, and I was like, I'm going into this town again and not getting opportunities. And I feel like I'm losing my years, my window. It's like, who was it? Carol, was it on Real Housewives of New York? Just like, I've only got 5 good summers left. I kept thinking that for myself, you know, at 25, and I was like, I'm just gonna throw everything into going to Madrid. No one knows me. I didn't speak a word of Spanish, and it was very overwhelming, but it was the best thing I ever did because, like I said, the gay scene I'd never fully been in. I'd been in glimpses, and I immersed myself into it to the point where it was my entire life. You know, everything revolved around the guys, the gym, the hookups, the dates, the possibilities. And it was all, I guess, around all this fear of not being alone and this making up for lost time. And what I've learned over the years, of course, is it doesn't matter about this time limit, you know, thinking, oh, we've got to meet the one by 30 or we're left on the shelf. All these ideas I used to have in my head. But obviously, at the time, when everything's all new, with ADHD, it's very overwhelming. Should have probably had a
Mm.
therapist at 25.
Everyone should have. I haven't had one. I probably need one, but everyone probably should have a therapy session or 100.
Yeah, I think I recommend to everyone a therapist should just come with every job, you know, with everything just in general for a weekly chat session.
Because life, honestly, that's going to sound really deep. Life is traumatizing.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I have never had such a traumatizing experience in my life, unless for the past 4 or 5 years, life has just been with the good, it comes with the bad,
Yeah.
the ebb and the flow of life, isn't it? And sometimes it's like, oh, when can I catch a break? I just want like 6 months of pure happiness.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It's like it's always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And it's like, why am I thinking like that? And people are like, you know,
That's where we go wrong.
yeah, it's like constantly. And I think a lot of that comes from, you know, navigating the world of gay dating. My goodness, it really is a merry-go-round of just sad Robin songs, and then you have a happy Dagny moment, and then suddenly you're in the deep despair of a Mooner album. You know, it's like you get all the ranges of everything, sometimes all in a week as well. The person you
Oh
fall in love
yeah.
with on a club on Saturday night, or you think you have, by the next weekend's ghosted you, and you're on to the next person because you're like, I want to meet someone. And I was very much in that phase in Madrid. Like I'd be talking about new guys I'd met to people, and they were like, which one is it? You tell me, you
Who?
know, like I'm so lost. Yeah. So
Yeah, I completely agree. I guess it's that weird pursuit of happiness in somebody, isn't it? But when it comes to gay dating, it's just hard.
yeah,
It's so tough. And I think online dating, obviously, you've got the Tinder, you've got the Hinge, the Grindr, whatever else out there, Scruff, or whatever else online. I think everyone falls into this trap of I like this person, but what if someone else comes along?
yes, yeah,
And it gets to a point where, especially if you live in a small town, where as we both do, you don't go through everybody as such, but you're like, talk to him, know of him. My ex slept with him. My
yeah,
ex slept with it, and it's always this small pool. So, like you venturing out to a different place is probably really exciting and really intimidating, like you said at some point. But I also agree that when you are looking to date, are you doing it because of genuine reasons, or is it the trauma that's there that you feel like you need someone else to validate you every single day? Or is it because you truly want to be with somebody who is going to enhance your life as opposed to having someone in your life just for the sake of it?
yeah. It's so true, and I think we've all been through that because, like I was saying, I had watched my friends go through the experience of the messy dates and the heartbreaks, and I
Yeah.
felt like, 25, 26 in Madrid, like I was on this determined mission to meet the man and it was like whatever cost. And the irony is, once I got into a relationship, I ended up in the completely wrong type of relationship for me because I ended up missing all the things about myself and being single. And I learned in the relationship all the things that I actually don't want in a relationship. And it was a lot of learning lessons through that. And going through that relationship experience was actually a real learning curve because I was with this guy for about 18 months. And during that time, I kind of shut off from my prior life. It was kind of a relationship where he had a lot of jealousy issues. And so if we'd go out
Mm.
together, it was always a drama. Who's this guy? And obviously, I'll be honest, before I met him, I had hooked up with every guy in Madrid. I had been on my proper era. And so every time I'd go out, people bump into you, the kiss on the cheeks in the club. And then he's like, who's this? And before you know it,
Who's that?
I just stopped going out. I became a little bit depressed, to be honest. I was sitting in the house just watching TV, and he would go out without me, and so it left me with a lot of time to think about what I actually want. And I realized I wanted the relationship so much, rather than ever. It sounds so cliche, working on yourself, all this stuff, but I never had. I'd been always on this quest, this mission,
Yeah.
and with ADHD, it's like the never ending pursuit of dopamine as well. So I would get
Mm.
my dopamine from the excitement and thrill of a new shiny object, which for me was attention from a guy that I thought was attractive that turned out to be probably not so nice a week or two later. And so when that happened in my relationship, it left me with a lot of learning lessons. And I think I came out of it very vulnerable because suddenly I realized all the things I do need and where I was going wrong. And by then, I was 28, summer of 2019. And so it's like all these things start hitting you all at once. And that was kind of a summer where I really threw myself into traveling. I was going everywhere, Berlin Pride, Valencia, Barcelona Circuit Festival, like every possible event as well, just not to deal with the fact that this reality was finally hitting me. And I was like, crap, I've never worked on myself. And I'm now 28. I'm on my own again. This relationship failed. All these thoughts and overwhelming things start coming to you. And was an interesting time, I will say for sure, because I think I became very vulnerable and being far away from home as well. You have your friends, but you're only talking, through WhatsApp. And the type of friends I'd been very much around in Madrid were the party ones, the good time guys. Through my relationship and the year or so that I'd been with him, we drifted apart because one of the things in the relationship didn't like my friends, didn't like my outfits, didn't like to go out with me. It
Mm.
was like this whole web, and that plays in when you've already got internalized shame and ADHD, a lot of things to navigate. You do come out of a relationship with a lot of battle wounds, and those definitely displayed themselves in 2019 up until the pandemic when I was going out again. Wasn't going out, with the same sort of manic joy or whatever you want to call it that it was when I first moved to Madrid. Was in all these places, traveling all around. People were like, you're living the life at the moment. You're in Berlin and you're in Valencia, or you go to all these places, but I was never feeling fulfilled at the end of the trip. I was never feeling like I just was again in the pursuit of something and I didn't know what it was, but I'd had all this time in this relationship thinking about all these things that were, in my opinion, wrong with me, but still wasn't addressing. So I still wasn't in, the therapy. I still wasn't really working on myself. I just was very insecure and I wanted to, I guess, through travel, seek something, but I didn't know what it was. It's like, and to be 28, be seeing, most of your friends back home are married, even a lot of my gay friends in Madrid in happy relationships. And so it was definitely an interesting time. There was a lot of depressing Robin songs on the playlist. But looking back, I think I needed to go on. I always call it like my queerness diary and each era of that. I needed to go through these different chapters and
Mm.
different learning lessons to get to where I'm at now because I was always gravitating towards guys that were not necessarily the best for me. I was always ended up in situations like there could be 100 lovely people in the room, okay? And I would go for the one guy that the worst every time. And I didn't know why I was doing it constantly. And it came to really
Yeah, I
bite
think we
me.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that, can't we? Like going for for some reason making the worst decisions ever.
Yeah.
But going into probably one of the best decisions you've ever made, how would you feel like your transition into social media and travel has maybe shaped your opinions of the past now? Because you're so open, you're so honest. So, for example, when I was looking through your social media, you did a whole, literally a TikTok about where to go cruising in Barcelona, was it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, and I was watching it, I was like, oh my God, he's on Google Maps. He's telling us exactly where to go. So whenever I go, if I want to go, I can go there. And I was like, oh my God, this is like such an open spot to go to. So could we sort of like move into the travel content and talking about travel for the LGBT community and how that has sort of how that has changed your life, I guess, in the past 3 months?
So I think for me, the biggest thing was so, like I said, I'd always been doing these trips through glimpses or, going to a lot of places to try and find some fulfillment. But what I realized is as I started working in the travel industry, so I was working very much behind the scenes. I ended up moving to Barcelona about 2 years ago, was working as a copywriter and very much the person anything when it comes to the website and making the hotels, the trip sound, glamorous or whatever to pitch to people, very much behind the scenes. But I always wanted to be the one kind of filming it and putting it together. And what I was
Mm.
noticing when it came to the queer travel industry is there's been a trend over the last 5, 10 years where we're sticking LGBTQ plus on every hotel, and that's great because they should be, but the genuinely owned, for example, queer owned boutique hotels, independent hostels, a lot of the gay men's resorts are getting pushed further and further down the search engines. And what ends up happening is in the UK, we've lost, for example, a lot of our gay hotels. You go to London, for example, and you want to find a genuinely owned queer run business, whether it's a hostel, a hotel, a guest house, very difficult to find one. So one of my things I wanted to do with the Wandering Gaze was to really highlight these. And I started to this summer as a long story short, my office job in Barcelona was going back into, hybrid. I was no longer remote. And I was like, after the last few years, I've been on years of therapy and chaotic situations, and was like, I just want to do this summer for myself. And what's bringing me joy? I've always wanted to do this LGBTQ travel guide business and in a very authentic way. So it just came to me, like I said, in the night, the wandering gaze. And I'm like, if I overthink it and doubt myself, I'll go back on it. So I just put a logo together quickly. And I was like,
Three.
Yeah, I think those 3 a.m. thoughts though, they can be the best sometimes, can't they?
They're the best thoughts.
Yeah, and it's like when it came to sort of building it, what I did pretty much is I already had a trip to Madrid at the end of April that was going to be nostalgic because it had been 2 years since I'd lived there. And I just decided to film everything and put it on TikTok and film around all the neighborhoods, the gay bars, all my favorite places I used to love when I lived there. And people started resonating with that. And right after that, immediately, I was on a flight to Maspalomas Pride and I decided to document the journey. And by the journey, I mean the emotional like impact of the circuit parties, the pressure that comes with, often feeling out of place myself over grow like I was saying before, when I was living in Madrid, I often felt out of place in these parties, but I always put myself in them as the possibility. So I started talking about that as I was at Mas Palomas Pride because it re-triggered some feelings. But then I also wanted to go around and make it my mission and be like, where are all the actual, well, there's a lot in Mas Palomas, the gay owned, hotels and hostels, boutiques. And so basically what I decided to do after that, the Wandering Gaze at its heart is, I say, flirtatious travel guide. So by that, it's very much, I do a little bit of cheekiness, a bit of a wink, and it's going in and it's talking about for short form content, travel guides all over that really focus on the authentically queer owned hotels. And sometimes some of the topics might trigger people because I'm not afraid to go and talk about the best cruising spots in Barcelona. I talked about the cruisy shopping malls in Barcelona because I live next to
I
there.
saw that. Can
Yeah.
you tell me? I'm gonna have to interrupt you because I need that just popped into my head. So, any time of the day, people are in this shopping mall cruising.
Yeah, so I lived across from there, and I always remember it's funny because they have like this Sephora shop, and then there's like the stairs up to the men's bathroom. And I
Do you
remember
say
going,
Sephora?
yeah, it's like Sephora in Barcelona is one of the best like beauty shops as well. I think they've got it in Manchester as well, haven't they now?
Yeah, no, yeah. So there's a Sephora coming to Cardiff. I could just imagine being
Oh.
like, right, I'm gonna go get my skincare, and then I'm gonna go get a blowjob.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So the funny thing is, it was like right up the stairs from there, this men's bathroom, and I just purely by accident discovered it. You'd walk in, and it was full of everyone in the urinals, and they all turned and stared. And gradually, it took me a few times to clock it, but the other bathrooms all in that shopping mall, the same thing was happening. And then you get searching. I'm like, oh, this is actually a cruising spot, and before you know it, you realize it's pretty much every shopping center in Barcelona. If you go upstairs to the first floor, it's where a lot of people meet and a lot of the action happens. And it's a lot. People, I think, do it there because it's a lot safer than some of the public places in Barcelona that can be not the best at the night time. And so I think a lot of people like the thrill of it, but at any one time, it doesn't matter if I would, because I was working near the one shopping center and living near the other. So anytime I'd pass through, there'd be a host of guys there. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna make a video about it because it's the reality of what's happening. People like to know.
I can't compute what you've just said. So it's like me going to like my local mall. It's St. David's in Cardiff, going to the toilet, and there's just all guys in there at the urinals,
Yeah, yeah,
giving each other the eye.
yeah. They all
To
turn.
and so explain to me step by step what happens because I can't envision it happening in a shopping mall. Because for me, I'm just like, is this not illegal?
I know, and I think that's kind of the thrill for a lot of people. So I never partook, but I kind of observed a lot of what was going on, and I would
What's
see,
the
yeah, everyone
wildest
would be
thing?
giving each other the eye, and then one would follow another, and it would be whatever time I went, it was always busy. It didn't matter what time I was there. So there's a big gay cruising population, whatever you want to call it, in the shopping malls of Barcelona. And I find it quite interesting, and
Hmm.
because it wasn't something I'd ever seen so freely in public. You hear about the airport cruising stories. Everyone's always got, everyone pops up suddenly at the airport, don't they? The hottest guy just about as you're supposed to take off on a plane. But to see it freely and openly in the middle of a shopping mall that's so public, it did shock me at first, but then I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting to observe. And I mean, Barcelona
So you
is a
never saw
very
anything
busy city.
happening? So did you see anything happening? Or was it just like people wandering off to do what they want to do?
They would go into the stores, so you couldn't see. I didn't stay around like too long to properly observe, but I'd always, notice every time I went in any of the bathrooms in these shopping malls, there was something going on. And that's, I think, Barcelona's very free in that sense because on the gay beach, it happens there, even in broad daylight. In Montjuic, which is like the hills in Barcelona next to where I lived, I did a little Google Maps how to get there. That's where I used to
Mm.
go, in all honesty. And it's very freeing, I think, in a lot of ways because, the truth is a lot of these ideas around sex and prudishness come with it's all down to shame at the end of the day. And there's something very freeing, I think, when you've grown up in an environment where you couldn't fully express yourself fully. Sometimes it's just getting your rocks off and going into the woods and meeting a hot guy. That's
Listen, I need to frequent Barcelona more. I think I've only been twice. So, and I had no idea this, and now I'm learning a lot, hence the questions. Not that if you see me posting any stories about being in any shopping malls in
oh
Barcelona,
no.
you'll know what floor I'll be on. That's iconic. That's crazy. So I guess my next question then, in terms of the LGBT and the travel. So these things can happen, which they're amazing. It's cool. You can go and live your best life, go and experience your most authentic, expressive self. What tips have you learned, and can you teach me and the audience listening some maybe some safe solo travel tips as people who are LGBT?
Yeah, so I would say it can be very confronting. Your first solo trip, and you're going to a destination, and whatever your thought process behind what you want to achieve in the city break, if it's a pride event, you go into a queer owned hotel. We build up a lot of expectations. So I always say, don't be surprised if the first time you end up disappointed because we put, again, all these prerequisites of what we expect out of the trip. And what I learned is there are actually a whole host of other solo travelers in the same position as me. Every time I go away, I actually found a whole new lease of confidence and freedom and liberation through solo travel that I didn't have in my. And by that, I mean, I used to hide behind the app. I wouldn't meet someone unless I'd been talking a long time on Grindr. If anyone looked at me in the club, I'd be too shy to approach, like the fear of rejection. And solo travel gives you kind of a lease of life in the sense that you can meet these groups of people who can really give you the best advice on a night on the town as well. It also gives you a sense of responsibility in that you have full control over your trip. Now we love our friends, okay, but we've all been on the holiday where one only wants to go to this restaurant, one only wants to
Yeah.
go to this party, and you come back needing a holiday from the holiday. And so one thing I love about solo travel is you have complete control. If you want to stay in bed till 2 p.m., there's no one to make you feel guilty. If you want to have a full-on rager night out till 6, 7 a.m. in every club every night, then that's up to you as well. But it's also on to you with your own safety. And that can be, it's very important to be aware that you're often going to destinations. As much as you're meeting people, you don't really know them. So you've got to build up an awareness. For me, for example, I changed in the sense of I barely drink now. I used to always be having my tequila Fantas and, knocking them back and whatever else. But because I know I have to be on it with my trip, and often I'm filming these events, it's made me very much more aware of my surroundings as well. And also, I think a lot of people, when it comes to solo travel, there's this sort of, again, like I used to do, this feeling of I want to go away and I want this needs to happen. You've got to let that idea go and just immerse yourself into the trip and the possibilities. And I really like highlighting these queer owned LGBTQ plus hotels that are actually owned by queer people because I know a lot of people will say, I've had these comments every day on TikTok. Oh, we don't have straight only hotels. Well, that's every hotel in the world. We don't want to on holiday, at least for me. Imagine I've got my boyfriend be walking through the hotel, the judgy look star. And before you know it, you've got the comments and you're feeling uncomfortable. And having these gay hotels, gives, for me at least, a sense of I can put my suitcase down, but I can also take my mask off. I don't have to be
Mm,
worrying about having to dim myself because we've all had to do that in the past in work situations, coming out over and over
mm.
again, trying to make the other guests comfortable. But there's always going to be those guests that are never comfortable around us. So why do you want to have that experience on holiday? It's very freeing to go away. For me, to, for example, a gay men's resort, and now I arrive and I can meet community, I can connect with people, and I can be fully myself without the pressure of I have to worry about, getting my flamingo speedos out because I might get some
Yeah,
look.
just it's just conforming, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
conforming to the traditional standards of society of being like, oh, it's got to be a man and a woman. Even if you're in a lot of accepting places, you do censor yourself. And it's like
Yeah.
walking around my hometown in Newport or Cardiff. If I was with my ex or for something, we're like, oh, I want to hold your hand, but like I would become over analytical and my eyes would be darting around every person walking past to see if they're looking at me. And then, but I would like, if I knew they were looking at me, I'd want to look at them and be like, what?
Yeah.
What you're looking at, almost to like confront them. Same as on holiday though, isn't it? But
So,
when I'm on holiday, if ever I was with my ex, I would never care as much. And if it was making people uncomfortable, I'd be like, let's stay longer. Let's make them more uncomfortable because I feel great in my authenticity. And if that makes you feel uncomfortable, you can leave because I'm in the right space.
yeah. Totally.
So would you say travel tip number one is definitely looking and trying to find the right queer spaces and hotels, like boutique hotels? Oh, I got a thumbs up. Boutique hotels to feel that safety.
Yeah, 100%. I think whatever is comfortable to you because, it doesn't have to be. Like I say, for me, I personally love going to these gay men's resorts, hostels, but we should all be able to feel comfortable and safe wherever we're going to. I think the number one thing is when it comes to, especially for solo travel, you learn a lot about yourself on these trips and you'll learn a lot about what you want out of future trips. So, like I said, the first one, it's allowed to be messy. If something goes wrong, and it can feel overwhelming. Like, I remember some of my first solo trips, like, don't take things too personally. Like, the flight feels like the flight's delayed, and then something goes wrong with the train getting into the city, and it starts to feel,
Yeah.
I think, overwhelming sometimes as a solo traveler as your first time because you put in all these expectations on perfection. And we've done that a lot in the queer community, many of us in other areas. And it's really letting that go to find what's comfortable with you for the trip and whatever it is that's going to bring you joy. Some people will go for a week to the Circuit Festival in Barcelona, for example, and that's what they want to do. Some people want a really just relaxed city break. Um, and some people, whatever it is, the holiday that you want, you get to create it exactly as is ideal to your needs, doing it on your own. And the thing is, you can come away with fantastic friendships with people that when you go back, you've got a place to stay. And you don't even need to stay at the hotel the next time.
Yeah.
And so it's really great in that sense because it's a huge confidence builder. And I would say the main thing that I have learned as someone, with ADHD that's been overcoming a lot of myself over the last few years is I feel now when I go away to any resort, I just step into that place fully as me. And I think in my 20s, it's like you said with your ex, when we used to go away, I was kind of the same. It was uncomfortable, the thought of PDA in public and all this stuff. Now it's like I've let go of all these things and I have a whole array of, trips. Some of them are very much relaxed, just I went to Oslo, for example, earlier in July, and
Oh,
that was
Oslo's nice. I've got some friends in Oslo.
a lovely place, yeah. And it was just like a very chill trip going down to the lake beach and everything there. And then I have the completely, wild trips to, say, We Pride in Madrid. And so it's like whatever you want your trip to be, it's completely up to you. And you can build a great community of friends through doing it. I think people always think they're going to arrive to the hotel and be kind of on the outskirts, and there's this fear of being left out almost. But there are so many people, honestly, so many people in the same position, and I always say just approach them. We've grown up with the apps, but going as a solo traveler, you're in the perfect position to be able to approach other people and connect with them. And it's like they're there right in front of you. And whoever starts the conversation first, you never know where it can lead. Could meet your future husband, who knows?
And I guess that's true. I guess it's identifying the difference between friends and hookups
Yes, yes. Blurred line.
as well. Very much a blurred line. And then the hookups end up becoming your bestest friends.
Yeah, it's always the way. But no, it's very freeing. And I know a lot of people do pop up with, I understand the anxieties around it. It's very confronting, the first time you're doing a trip on your own, you're going to maybe a gay destination and you've got all these expectations. But once you put the pressure off, and it is a process, there's so much joy that comes out of it.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think solo traveling is so much fun. So the only ever solo travel trip I've done, I was 24. It was in 2021, so we were still in like peak lockdown.
Yeah.
I went to Canada for 4 months.
Really.
And Canada is probably one of the most LGBT accepting places ever.
Yeah.
It was definitely, I was in Toronto, so I was in like the city. It was so fun. It was so freeing. Like I met all these random people from all over the world, a lot of people from the UK, and we became so close. We went to all these gay bars, we met these amazing people.
Yeah.
And then even obviously it was on Grindr. I did meet somebody who I thought was the love of my life, who came down from another part of the country, 2 hours down to come see me, right? Stay in this club. Came back to my hotel. He went back home, and then a few days before I was leaving, he came back and we shared some more time together. And I thought he was the love of my life.
Yeah, you're like, this is the
And I felt so seen and so safe. And it was just after my first and only ever relationship ended in the worst possible way it could ever end. Anyway, that's just kind of why I went.
Yeah.
And the safety that I felt, the freeing nature that I felt, I have never felt like that since. Obviously, I brought some of that back with me. But this person, like, embraced me so much. I think at the time I was still going through the trauma of the breakup, that he was like, I'm going to come to London and see you, and I'm going to come home. I want to see you when you go home, and form this like very long distance relationship. And at the time I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll be there. You can do whatever. Like, we're going to be together forever. I was home for a week and he literally said, oh, I've booked tickets to come and see you in a few weeks. He was going to fly into London. And I was like, stop, you don't come. Don't, like, I can't have this. This is not true. This can't be my reality. So yeah, that happened. But yeah, traveling as a solo gay person can seem overwhelming. But if you go to the right places and the right spaces, it's so freeing.
Yeah, so true. And it's true. Those holiday romances can be intoxicating sometimes. I think that happens as well because in the day-to-day dating world, we put so much pressure on what we want out of the dates, don't we? And it's like we go on a date, for example, and it's almost like we've got this checklist. But on holiday, we're so in the moment. And so we all have those experiences where we've met someone away and we think about them years later, because I think we kind of build in our heads them into a character in some sort of way, because we've got all these memories associated with them. And it's always it's easy to do, because I always say I've met so many really great guys when I've been away, but I only knew them really for a week or a few days. And I'm like, but was that the one? Was that the one? Was that the one?
Yeah. Honestly, everyone you look at is like, he's my husband.
Yeah. So it's easy done. It's easy done.
So I wanted to move on before. Yeah, no, definitely. I wanted to ask you a question, which I was really interested in, actually. So you do a lot of LGBT travel blog, like that. Your content is LGBT travel based.
Yeah.
So what do you feel like the straight travel blogs or vlogs don't really get when it comes to their wider audience, which could be people of the LGBT community? Do you feel like some vloggers and blogs don't necessarily represent everybody? Obviously, it's all very generalized. and you see like a lot of people like there's the guy I follow on YouTube. I think is Walk with Tim. Don't know if you know him.
Yeah, yeah.
I love his content, but he like went to Dubai, for example. I was watching his content in Dubai and it looked amazing. But in the back of my mind, not that he needed to do this, but I was like, he hasn't mentioned anything about not feeling safe.
Yeah.
And and obviously he didn't need to because he probably did feel safe. But for me as someone watching who is if I was to ever go there, I know I would probably feel unsafe, even though I do want to go to Dubai.
Yeah.
What don't the straight people get? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of that is very true because I think it's just not something that ever has to cross their mind. And for us, we're thinking about all these potential things when we're going away. You know, I'm thinking about the safety of the hotel, the location. Is it a queer-owned business? You know, how am I going to feel? Like, for example, if I have a boyfriend in the future, holding his hand walking through the hotel. You know, I'm going to be looking at all
Yeah.
these different things and really analyzing that. And one thing I will say is this is more with instead of with bloggers, more with the travel agents. There's not a lot of genuine LGBTQ plus guides on the website. So you know, you go to say, I don't know, Expedia, Jet2, whatever it is, and you're looking for your holiday packages. You do see LGBTQ plus, but it's every hotel. There's nothing that's specifically the gay owned businesses, you know, that for example, it could be some random travel lodge and they're listing it as LGBTQ plus because every hotel should be, but we're losing in doing that the authenticity of getting genuine gay travel guides out there. And it's the same across the board. You know, one thing I'll say about I don't want to call out Jet2 and charity shop Sue because I do love her, but they're really
Nothing beats
going
a
hard
Jet2
this year.
holiday. And right now you can say sorry.
They're really going hard with the prize this year, and that as they should. But on their website, the LGBTQ plus travel section, I went there, and it's a lot of the destinations listed. It's like completely random places that are not even LGBTQ plus friendly. I'm sure I saw on one Dubai, like and on the LGBTQ plus holiday section. I've seen Morocco on the LGBTQ plus holiday section. And the problem with that is we need more people working in travel marketing that are actually working with these travel agencies to put on the website the genuine businesses, genuine travel guides, genuine hotels that are safe for us because we're already feeling, you know, a lot of questions about our trip that straight people don't have to think about. And someone booking a first time trip could be misled. They could go onto this holiday website and think, oh, this hotel's perfectly safe. I'm going to be fine. And they get there and have a terrible experience. So, I
Hmm.
would say there needs to be more of, and what I'm trying to do with the Wandering Gaze is really push for that. If I can get anything out there, it's really highlighting those hotels that have really made me feel safe and those boutique smaller businesses that have drifted down the search engine rankings because of LGBTQ plus being slapped on by these holiday companies. And I'm not calling out any specifically because it's all of them from what I've seen. And also highlighting that there are queer owned travel agencies like out of office queer destinations that will really tailor your holidays and really focus on going to the hotels, making sure the staff are trained on queer safety. These sort of things are very important. And I think more of that needs to be out there. So I try and push that for the TikTok audience. But I think in the travel industry in general, we need to have authentic LGBTQ plus guides on every website. You know, everyone wants to go and be able to book a trip and know that, say, you're going to Barcelona, you've got the best gay hotels in the safe zones, you've got a list of bars, you've got a list of events, whatever it is. And that's still lacking, unfortunately. But we can push towards it. And if anything, that's my mission with Wandering Gaze, doing that gradually, day by day, in every video that I put out.
Yeah, amazing. I guess that really swerves on in a fantastic little segue to a little thing I wanted to sort of talk to you about in terms of countries that are surprisingly friendly and countries that where visibility could be risky. So I wanted to ask you, like, I'm going to sort of name a couple of countries, and you're going to say slay, swerve, or secret only.
Yeah, okay.
Just to test your knowledge, and I'm not gonna lie, I will be so upfront with you. I did ask ChatGPT because I trust ChatGPT more than anything at the moment. So I'm gonna hope that,
Yeah, it's
I'm
got
gonna hope it serves me well. So in terms of like it being either really friendly or maybe places that are like good
yeah,
destinations to go to or places where visibility could be risky.
yeah. Sounds good.
Okay. So first and foremost, Colombia.
So I would say Slay because I had a lot of my best friends in Madrid from there, and I don't know when, but I am planning a trip at some point, even next year, if not the year after. And there's so many amazing resorts that I found through my friends there. But I do think having a good resource of those friendships has helped because it wasn't somewhere that I would have necessarily thought otherwise, to book as a destination. But I am planning next year to do a trip around South America, and Colombia will be on the list, hopefully. And there's a lot of gay men's resorts there. So I think very underrated, and there's some beautiful hotels.
Amazing. Okay. Jamaica.
I'd say swerve. Like there's nothing that would entice me to go there in general. In contrast to Cuba, for example, where they built their first Axel gay hotel, and there's a few gay resorts now, and they've really pushed over the last few years a lot of gay men's only resorts. But I'm kind of not a tropical islands person anyway, because I always think it's going to rain, there's going to be a hurricane or something like that. And in terms of like, yeah, queer safety, no. I just would not anywhere that I'm going to feel any sort of risk. I'm going to completely I just don't
Okay.
need even the 1% chance.
Okay. How about Vietnam?
Well, Vietnam pops up every day. A complete slate. In my comment section on TikTok, after Spain and the UK, the third largest of my demographics are popping up from Vietnam, and they're always popping up saying, "Oh, you could come visit this hotel, that hotel." Some amazing hotels I've seen, incredible places actually. So I would highly recommend it. I think I've got to get around to doing a trip there. And from the sheer volume of messages and comments, the audience have told me the very authentic experiences there. There's really a lot on offer. And aside from the flights, you're paying a really good value price for a really nice hotel experience. So I'd say very underrated.
You came home, you were talking all the time, and that was a red flag.
Yeah. So essentially, at the time, I was not registering a lot of things in my life. So was going through a strange sort of fog. I think the pandemic impacted our mental health in a lot of ways. And for me, everything that I had ever been internalizing was coming out. So I was very needy, and in friendships to have someone that was really listening. And he kind of came with this story, like I'm really looking for work, gave him all the details for my job. I very much gave him access to everything, my friends, my life, everything in Madrid. And slowly things started to get a little bit more, I would say, just off by the week. But at the time, I wasn't really noticing it because it was nice to have someone around me rather than just this group of friends that I'd always hung around with that I felt like were what happened with the situation was it just one thing led to another, and I did not have the awareness at the time because I was going through a part of my life where I think a lot of the trauma and things I hadn't dealt with were coming out. So I was on antidepressants, and just trying, to be honest, to get through day to day. And so to have someone there all the time, I didn't realize his intentions were not good. He'd always be the one
Mm.
when I was having like moved into my new apartment, I wanted to stay over and to clean the apartment. But we ended up in situations, I'd wake up and I'm like, why is he literally on top of me in the bed? It was like these sort of things were happening, and I began to question it. And in all honesty, a lot of things made sense later. He was always the one making the drinks for me. And I shouldn't have been drinking on antidepressants, but
Mm.
it was all a fog at the time. So you put two and two together, just spiraled very quickly into a situation where he was full on in pursuit of me and always there. And I suddenly was in this situation where I realized what was happening and I reached out to all my friends, but he completely denied it and instead weaponized it against me to the point where it evolved into this daily harassment. And he would pop up on different, so I was still on Grindr then. This is one of the reasons I don't use it anymore. But he'd pop up as, I think, oh, a new cute guy is talking to me. I'm kind of lonely and I'm not good with my friends now over the situation with him because they've still stuck by him after knowing what's happened. So people would pop up, I think a new guy is talking to me, very cute. And then before you know it, you've sent pictures, on Grindr, and then you're having threats like, I'm going to send them to your workplace. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And all of these things happening every day. And it ended up happening, unfortunately. I ended up losing a job because he put my personal photos on a website for escorting, in all honesty, and my personal phone number. And I was going to the police, and it was always like brushed off, and enough wasn't enough. And I was like, how with all this evidence? And then the profiles would magically disappear. I realized there was a lot of stuff missing from my apartment as my awareness came back. I'd been in a cloud of antidepressants and drinking, and that hadn't been good. And like I said, he
Mm.
had been the one when he was around my apartment making those drinks, probably a little bit stronger than they should have been. And so, as all of these things were unveiling themselves to me, I guess a lot of the anger built because I was like, okay, these friends that I had around me in Madrid were not the closest to me, but they were all believing him. And how has he got no remorse? There's no apology. And it just continued. I'd get every day a new profile. I would see in 2022, he was in the UK, out in the places I would go out in Birmingham and Manchester and posting reels and photo stories on TikTok with these like captions that were clearly directed towards me. And it was really just creepy. Like it was a proper, I can find some humor in it now because I've had to kind of mask a lot of the trauma. But it just went on, and every day was something else. There was never a day of peace. There was always these messages that would pop up off different phone numbers. We're always watching you. No matter what you do, you'll never have peace. He always made it seem like it was not just him, that it was him and the group of friends that I was no longer friends with doing it, but it was him the whole time. So as you can imagine, because I wasn't having much luck with the police, I became very angry, and I just became exhausted and exasperated. It got to the point where I packed a suitcase in the night. I booked a flight home back to the UK, and I left everything behind in Madrid. And I didn't go back for years because I was just being so hounded every day. It didn't matter whether it was through an app, my personal email address, my phone number, websites with my photos appearing on. It just seemed like no matter what I did, nothing would stop this never ending merry-go-round. And it only stopped last year because what happened to me ended up happening by him to another person from my former friend group. And then suddenly you get all these people popping up with the apologies. And I'm like, well, everything that I've been saying for the last 4 years, So it's like finally after that, the situation, I will say, has been resolved. That's about as much as I can say. But what I was left with, I think, is a lot of trauma when it comes to relationships, men, apps, and that's why one of the big reasons this year I decided I need to do things that bring me joy. I need to do things that bring me happiness. Was not finding it in Barcelona, was not finding it in corporate. I need to find trust again, honestly, in the community, because I felt very let down by this group of people. Like, you're going to believe someone that has assaulted me and been in my home and done all this stuff, just someone, by the way, that they've known a month. And it's very easy when someone's mentally
Mm.
not in a good place to lose sympathy for them. And so, because mentally I was not good at that time in
Mhm.
2020, drinking too much, antidepressants, it was not very believable to someone like him that came across charming, would always bring the dog everywhere, and everyone loves the dog and presents himself in a certain way. And so the reality was, I had years of torment, and he played it very well, that character, until he got caught doing it to someone else from the friend group. And I believe there's more people that it's happened to. And so my journey that I've been on over the past year, unpacking that, is, like I said, I've really needed to start doing things that make me feel free and joyful again and build trust, because I felt like I had 4 years kind of in this prison. And I was just waiting. I had fear every time my phone would buzz, fear every time I get an email. I just would get
Mm,
a random picture of me that I thought I'd sent to, a cute guy in 2020 that turned out to be him, and he'd kept it for revenge porn purposes. All these different things for years. And so to be free of that, it's almost weird because you're not used to it. So I've been going through this transitional
mm,
time where it's quiet, and I'm not used to the quietness. I'm also not used to it online when it comes to TikTok and social media. People being pleasant and nice, because I was being trolled every day by him and different accounts. And so that's why for me now it's so important with the Wandering Gaze to take it's kind of a way of taking my power back. It's a way of me being able to
mm.
really show people, look, this is who I am, and I'm not hiding in the shadows anymore. I lost almost half a decade doing that over this individual. And I feel like no matter what happens in the future, I made this year really about taking back my joy, reclaiming my power, and for other people out there, because a lot of people have reached out with surprisingly similar stories and situations. Sounds cliche to say, but it really does get better. And really, don't be afraid to lean in on on people, because I was not someone in the past that wanted to burden people, with a lot of my issues and problems. But my family really helped me through this time. I've had friends that have really been my rock. And now I'm in this new chapter. I'm still unpacking, a lot of the mental anguish, and I have no trust in men, of course. But I want to get there in the future. I want to be able one day to say, I'm going to meet someone fantastic, and can have trust in friendships again. And that's why solo travel has brought on this new lease of life, because I think those 4 or so years when this was going on, I was very much so shut down that as soon as anyone would give me any sort of red flag, I'd be completely out the door. And I lost through doing that a lot of potential great friendships, a lot of opportunities. I could not stay in a job more than a few months, because as soon as someone would do something, I'd be like, I'm off, because I was in just this cycle of feeling like it was never going to end. So now there's a peace, light at the end of the tunnel. It really is about, through the Wandering Gaze, claiming a lot of joy back, a lot of freedom, and it's built a lot of happiness again. I felt like I lost, like I said, years of my life, and now I get to live it how I want. And that's why, we spoke before, in my 20s, I was so worried about meeting the guy. I was so worried about the party. I was so worried about my appearance and every little thing. Nowadays, I don't care. That's why I'm so open on TikTok. All these pressures and things I put on myself. When you go through something like that, when you don't even know if you're going to get through the day, honestly, you come out of it a much stronger person. Like, I think I'm pretty badass today, like, compared with the version of me in my 20s, to have this reclaimed confidence. And it's still, like I said, a day to day journey, but my story is one of many. A lot of people out there go through similar things. And like I said, really lean into those people that you trust and confide in them, because they've really got me through what has been, it's felt like being in some weird Netflix twisted TV show.
Yeah, I mean, well, thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate you being so open and honest about the whole experience because, like, I don't know, my face showed it. I just felt like I was in a bit of disbelief hearing, obviously, just,
Yeah.
I guess, the tip of the iceberg. Like you said, it's unfortunately you are one of many, but from the pain, the trauma, and the suffering comes your newfound confidence within yourself and the true meaning of being who you are, which has also
Yeah.
allowed you to have that openness and confidence to post as you are on social media, doing so much positivity for us, myself, other people within, the community, building a crazy following in such a short space of time and reclaiming that independence and reclaiming who you are as a person that was taken away from you by somebody who clearly didn't want other people to think you were crazy.
Yeah.
And to go through so much hell and so much trauma, and like you said, it's a day by day thing, but you have come on the other side. And even speaking about it now, listening to you speak about it, feels like you can tell the story without it being triggering in a way.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. It's like it's been a process, but I have let go of a lot of that. I think even over the last few months, I'm like, you know what? I mean, technically, I'm showing up every day in these destinations, but I'm not living my life in the shadows anymore. It's like it's very freeing for me. And I think that's why building this on my own terms is really important too, outside the corporate world. And I know I've got a long way to go when it comes to like trust and relationships, but I have found so much joy this summer. And it's so nice to feel that because I'd lost that feeling for many years. I felt like I was living life almost on autopilot, but I wasn't getting, just very small things sometimes can bring me a lot of joy nowadays. And it can be as simple as walking down the street with my headphones on and a good bop, a good Slater song, and not having to worry about a text message popping up. And believe me, I'd be in that level of fear for years. And so having this level of freedom, it's almost like, yeah, it's like, yes, I can say I lost those years, but these new years are such a journey that I'm on now with so much excitement. And I'm really just so relieved to be through it and on the other side because it felt like eternity when I was in it. But this has been honestly one of my best summers
Mm.
by far.
Good. I'm really pleased for you. I'm glad you've had a good summer. And I think what I say this a lot, what doesn't break you makes you in a way. And it's not
Yeah,
because of the person who maybe tried to break you. It's because of who you are and the person that you are that got you through that, even if it was with or without other people supporting you through that situation.
yeah,
And it's made you into the person that you are now to find such joy in those little things, which we probably, a lot of us take for granted. Like, you know, I can't wait for a notification to pop up on my phone. I'm like, who's texting me now? But
yeah,
for someone to go through what you've gone through, to just probably want to disassociate and turn off the Wi-Fi and like, get rid of your phones and just become, go like into a shell to feel
yeah,
safe when obviously that is something that you wasn't able to do. And I just can't believe you lost friends over that. And I can't believe you lost a job. And I just can't, it, it's so inhumane over someone being obviously psychotically obsessed to the point
yeah.
that they couldn't have you, so they're going to break you in a way. And I just don't, I've never understood behavior like that and narcissistic behavior like that. And the absolute audacity that anyone in the world thinks they have the absolute right to treat any other human like that purely because they think it's their God-given right to have whoever they want, and if they can't have them, no one else will. And it
Yeah,
just isn't like that. Obviously,
so
this is
true.
my perception of what
Yeah,
you've said. Now, this is what I'm taking, and like I've been in a very similar situation in my one and only relationship with somebody thinking they have the absolute God-given right to take any shine, any light away
yeah,
from me purely because of how intimidated they were by that, how scared they were by that, and how unseen they felt when they were ever with me because everyone saw me over them, for example.
yeah,
I know it's very different situations, but to have someone that will try and dim you and dull you down, stamp you down, and make you believe that you are the problem, that you are the issue, that everything you are is wrong to make their lives better. It blows my mind. It absolutely blows my mind. And even to this day, like there's times when I'm trying to get into relationships with people where there are still bits of that trauma that are still in the back of my mind that will always be there that stops me fully pursuing somebody purely because I just never want to feel like that again. Like the sense of purpose that I lost because of somebody else, and I just felt like I had lost control of my life for somebody
yeah.
else, and I just never want to feel like that again. And that's where social media for me came in as well. Like I did reality television, and that allowed me to find my new sense of confidence
Yeah.
with a voice online, doing the things that I do now, such as having conversations like this and, different age groups that we are, going through something so similar. And I'm so thankful for it now that that person was in my life for the very short period that they were of 4 years in the grand scheme of things to teach me so much to bring to other people that maybe need to hear it and
Yeah,
feel seen
definitely.
and validated,
Yeah, 100%. And
which I think you're
I
doing
think
as well.
that, no, thank you so much. I think, like with your story as well, it's like you've probably been probably similar to me in the past. I would be like, how red is a red flag? How red is it really? Is it a little bit orange? Is there still some green in it? And I would always go into every relationship, friendship, and things like that. And it's like, I think for us with social media, the learning lessons, like, as much as we never understand these people's mentalities, at some point we don't have to anymore because we understand our own mentality and what we want to achieve and all the great people and things we can achieve in the future. It's like
Yes.
with my situation, I'm not going to, because I did for so long, I was like trying to overanalyze and think, try to understand the why of it all. Like, why me? Like, what was it about me? And I thought, I'm never going to get an answer. I'll never get an apology, and I don't need one. What I need to do is understand why I was maybe gravitating towards these types of people. Because prior to that, I had the relationship that wasn't great, and I was always, like I said before, 100 people in a room, I'd always go towards the one that maybe gave me that quick fix of dopamine, but was the bad boy or whatever. And I've learned so much about myself, and I imagine you have as well, like through what you've been through. And it really allows us, because we show up as ourselves on social media as well, it connects us to more people that really resonate. And we're connected with an audience now where people really relate to our stories, and it can give you a whole new lease of life. And like I said, it's
Hmm.
it's battle wounds are still there. I imagine for you as well, but it's like at the same time, a lot of fresh perspectives that maybe would never have come and would, at least I know for me, I would have probably continued if this hadn't happened, repeating my same anxious attachment style with a lot of guys that were not so great and being oblivious to a lot of signs that were not good for me because they had always done that for years. And now it's like, yeah, the wall is up, but I know when the right person comes along and if it will come down. And like I said, through travel, this solo travel experience, getting to meet people, finding this confidence on my own, it's given me a boost and freedom again that I lost and given me my voice back because I felt like I was in a story and someone else had the pen and was writing all the chapters for me, and they weren't chapters that I wanted in my own diary. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
No. Yeah, I so get that. I remember this is such a funny thing that just popped into my head. I remember being in a situation with an ex best friend and an ex partner at this,
Mm,
and something happened between three of us that was nothing to do with my control. He hated her, she hated him. Something happened, and I
yeah,
remember it was wild. I remember literally being led in my shower 7 o'clock in the morning before going to university, looking up into the ceiling, just letting the water pour over me, and just thinking like, how the hell am I in this hurricane and I don't know how to get out of it because I didn't start it? Like, what do
yeah,
I do? But I am now in the eye of the storm, and how do I figure that out? Why am I in such a why have two people ruined my life and all I'm
yeah,
doing is existing? And I couldn't get to the answer, and I just was like, how do I get out of it? And like you said, there's always a way out. There's always an end
yeah,
to it. And looking back now, I was like, fuck, like it's crazy to think like I can see myself in that moment, led in my bath with a shower on me, just being like, what is life? I can just see that. And now, obviously, so much has changed. But it's like you said, it's all temporary, isn't it?
yeah. And it's so true. And it's like in the moment, things can just spiral so fast that you don't even realize you're in the thick of it until it's a full on like Hurricane Katrina situation. And it's like when you're in that, it's like, it feels like, when is this going to pass? But when it does, it's like the learning lessons that come out of it. And it really helps us, as traumatic as these situations are, with future friendships, relationships, and finding people to align with that really have our best interests at heart. Because, it's like now I really value the friendships that I do have and the people that were there through that time so much. And it's like, those ones that tried to reappear in Madrid, it's like, I'm always friendly. I'm never going to, I can't be doing with the drama, but I never want them back in my life because they've shown themselves already.
Yeah.
But before, for many years, they were at the epicenter of my life and going around all these gay clubs and that. But it's like now I'm very happy with my own company, which I never was. Outside of
We
solo
love
travel, I
that.
enjoy, I never thought there could be so much peace in just doing simple things on my own,
Mm.
like whether it's just hiking with some music, watching, like I said, housewives in bed, like all these things before that used to give me fear and the want of having a man there, the relationship or going out with friends. I'd go out even if I was miserable, like just to go out and possibly meet someone. Now I'm so happy with the peaceful moments. Though I will say, you could probably relate, TikTok does that. We're so busy on there that we're exhausted by the end of the day sometimes.
Well, being the producer of everything that we do is hard, isn't it? It's just a one man
Yeah,
band essentially to build whatever platform we're building at the moment, and it takes a lot of time. And you work full time, I work full time. I get it. Like it's working a 5 till 9 outside of your 9 till 5, and
yeah,
finding those moments of quietness and peace and being alone is great because people who do social media and you're constantly looking at numbers, analytics, you're talking to people, you're engaging people, you constantly think of the next thing. To have
yeah,
that break, to not look at that and not be in this space of, okay, engage,
yeah.
that quietness is so good and so nice.
Yeah, you appreciate it a lot more. It's like what was once fear around the quietness and alone time becomes like, oh, this is so good. I can just eat a carrot cake in bed and watch trash TV.
Mm. I, I bloody love carrot cake.
Yeah, I gotta love a good carrot cake.
Yeah, I gotta love a good carrot cake. Amazing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring it back sort of to the travel, and then we'll do a bit of an end into the episode. So
Yeah,
right now I've got 4 questions that I want to ask you for the wider audience, right? So just sort of quick fire answers, nothing too much in detail, just things people can take away from this. So I'm gonna ask you 4 things, um, and just see how you answer them. Is that okay?
sounds good to me. Yeah,
All travel related.
perfect.
Okay, amazing. So the first one is, how do you stay confident traveling solo?
I think the main thing for me is letting go of that fear of rejection. So by that I mean approach people. There's so many people, like I said before, in the hotel, wherever it is, you'll find there's a lot of people in the same position of you, and just approach them. A lot of great people that I've met over the summer have been through doing that, and it's like how it's evolved with the apps anyway. It's a billion advertisements to talk to one person nowadays. No one wants to be on the app. So you're in this position where you can connect with people and they're directly there. And you're not being catfished. We've all been catfished. All these different moving parts around travel. It's like you can just go and you can connect with people. And that person that you see sitting across from you, say, having the buffet at breakfast that maybe looks over, just go and talk to them. You could come out
Mm,
with a best friend from doing that. I honestly have met great people just by approaching. And before, I would never, I'd be like, oh, what if he thinks I'm a weirdo? What if it, I think you learn to let go of that fear of rejection.
amazing. I love that. What a fantastic answer. Okay. How do you make travel content that actually converts?
I think the most important thing is, for example, you've got to stick to your own voice. And by that, I mean, I am not an expert on the architecture of hotels. I don't know what wood furnishings and what all these flourishes and things that bring it to life. What I am selling is the emotional impact of the trip. And people resonate with the emotional impact of your content. People don't want to feel like they're being sold. You've got 1-2 seconds to grab them, if that, with the hook at the start of the video. And if people feel like you don't need to be saying hi guys at the start of your video. You don't, people imagine as well, your audience is always, they don't know you. Okay. You have a few people that are always going to comment, but you're talking to a stranger every time.
Mm.
So that stranger needs to know who you are and connect with you emotionally pretty quick. Otherwise, they're on to the next video and they won't stick with your content. So for me, that is, I'm telling the emotional story with a bit of a tongue-in-cheek humor about these destinations. I don't know crap about hotel decor when it comes to the finer details. People can find that online afterwards. You know, they want to see the hotel, they want to see the emotional journey of it. They don't want to see me trying to look like I know anything about 18th century architecture of some Victorian house in Manchester that's been converted
No
into a
one
gay hotel.
cares.
Yeah, it's like people don't care. We're a fast consuming generation. We want it snappy, quick, and at the same time real. You've got to keep it. Don't lose your voice trying to get a viral moment, because you'll get that viral moment, and it's not worth having 100K for one video to then have an audience that doesn't follow through because they see the rest of your content is not on brand with the one that went viral, if that makes sense.
Perfect. And if you could give me an example of what you think the perfect hook is, because you do marketing, so
So for me, a good call to action at the start of the video, I think I use a lot of housewives quotes. I use a lot of things that are kind of humorous and funny. You know, it's like yesterday I used one from Luann on Real Housewives of New York. It was like, is Queen Latifah really a queen? Well, I felt like a king at this hotel in
nice.
Copenhagen. That was like something that Luann said as a joke, like in Housewives years ago. Like if you've watched it, like something funny like that that grabs someone's attention, and it's on the brand for what I kind of do. And sometimes I make up words that probably aren't even correct, but it grabs people's attention.
Mm.
People want to hear as well. They want a reason to comment on your video and prove that they are right and your opinion is wrong too. And they also like to give you advice. So if I say, this is the most amazing hotel in Gran Canaria, 1,000 people will be like, no, you're wrong. This is a horrible hotel. This is disgusting as well. So I think a lot of that is very important right at the beginning of the video. I'm not saying, you know, the video has to tell a story, but there has to be a good catchy hook at the start to grab the people's attention. The middle of the video is kind of telling what you're going to do. And then by the end, they need to know the result and be asked what they think,
Mm.
because people love to, you know, prove you wrong. And I welcome that. I love it when people tell me my hotel that I chose is awful, here's a better one, or they've got a completely different take. Because especially in the travel industry, as much as I know, I could be completely wrong. You know, it's like I could be staying at this hotel and someone's got an amazing hotel that I've never heard of.
So
Yeah, no
it's
worries.
always interesting to hear other creators talk about their thought processes behind making content, because some things go so well and you try and recreate it and it flops. Other times
Yeah.
you're not trying and it does so well. And it's always good. It's always nice to hear from, you're definitely an expert because you've done it in your field for so long. It's always nice to hear, and it's always interesting to hear as well. So I do appreciate that little bit of insight. You'll probably see me looking for like Real Housewives quotes now, and every time you see them, be like, "Oh, we watched his Housewives."
Yeah. Yeah, I think you learn that whatever
Okay,
you.
so go
Ah,
on, go
yeah.
on, go on.
No, I said you learn whatever your niche is and whatever feels authentic to you. You know, I think you run with that, and once you know you've got an
Mm.
audience, they tune in for that. So clearly, it's working, and it's like not to overthink it. You know, it's like letting go of that. I must say this. I must cover these talking points. Sometimes, honestly, a lot of my
Yeah.
videos that have done best, I've just completely rambled a load of stuff that I don't even know what I'm talking about, but it sounds sort of funny in my head.
So I guess so. Another question is, how would you navigate hookup culture when traveling?
I think important thing for me is, so because I'm not on the apps anymore and I'm navigating this very much in real life again, safety is a real big thing, you know, because obviously, especially for me, what I've been through, I don't have a lot of trust around that. But I'd say for people in general, it's important to be aware, even in the hotel with other guests, just only going with what you're comfortable with. When you're going out to, for example, a club and you're in a new destination you've never been before, you don't know anyone in destination, just be very mindful of your surroundings and people as well. Like I said, I always like to go out with people from the hotel that I've met during the day and I'm going to be seeing around. And that's why I'm not on my own. And maybe we all go back with each other. Even if one or two of us have met a guy that we like, we all go back together at the same time. And that can build a little bit of trust and confidence too. But the important thing navigating hookup culture is to be aware that if you're a solo traveler on a trip, you're the person in charge of your safety. You have to be aware of everything, right down to your phone, your wallet, your passport, all these different things. It's only you are in control of that. So to be very mindful that, and half the time, at least for me, in the moment, it seems like, oh yeah, I used to be the person, say 6, 7 years ago, I'd venture out at 3 a.m. in the morning for a hookup on Grindr if I felt like it. I probably won't nowadays. And that's not, if someone wants to still do that, fair dues, but there's a lot of risk that comes to inviting people into, your home or going to someone else's. So when I go out and I'm navigating the hookup scene, so to speak, these gay bars, I like to go with people from the hotel that I've already been conversing with over several days. If I go out alone, I don't drink. I will go out sober, and that's good as well because it's like I fully have, instead of my beer goggles on, I'm fully aware of the situation.
Honestly, I couldn't ask for better advice because it's always it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm in a new place, I'm in a new country, I'm gonna experience all the cuisine, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean. And sometimes, like, obviously, you do forget all the safety that is involved in being alone in another country. So I think that's great advice, and I think that's a nice little way to end it on. Really, I think it sort of summarizes like what Cocktails with James is.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, and it's been so fun having this conversation with you as well. I think, I always, like I said, it's so important as gay men to have these sometimes heavy conversations, emotional conversations, but also put it all out there. And especially now in the world of social media, props to you as well for doing this podcast, and being able to stand in your authenticity and have these conversations with people. Because I think it's really
Thank you.
important for the community. And we're in a time where people are really looking to connect. They're looking to connect to stories, to experiences, and being able to be the facilitator of that, got to give you props to that. So thanks so much for having me on.
Honestly, thank you so much for coming on. I know it was quite sort of in less than a week's notice, just asking if you wanted to come on and being like, yeah, let's do it this weekend. I just think your content resonated with me personally, and I also think it would resonate with a lot of people who maybe want to go and do a bit more in their life, who are part of the community but maybe don't know where to start. And I think you are somebody who could really inspire a lot more people. So I just wanted to bring you to my audience and see where that's going to go. So it's been absolutely incredible, and I really like listening to you as well. I feel much more hopeful for some solo trips, hopefully in the near future.
Yeah, you'll definitely have to let me know where you end up going, and I shall give you some tips.
Oh, we'll have
So
to
you
do a
only know.
solo trip and meet up.
Yes, definitely. Honestly, some fantastic places. And like I said, some of the unexpected destinations can bring you the most joy. So, such a pleasure having this conversation with you.
Amazing. So before we go, I wanted you to let everybody know who is listening or watching when this does go out. Where can everyone find you on social media? And if people want to get in touch.
I am on Instagram now and on YouTube as well, but primarily TikTok is my main space. If you reach out on there, I always try and get around to responding to every message that comes in.
Okay, amazing. So everyone, you heard that, it's the.wandering.gaze on TikTok, and there's a link on there for his email as well if you maybe want to get in touch a bit more, and hopefully brands want to reach out some places to work with you to spread some more awareness would be absolutely amazing. So thank you so much for everybody for listening to Cocktails with James with this episode with Connor. It's been absolutely fantastic. As always, the spiel. If you could leave a review, like, comment, subscribe to the Cocktails with James Instagram and TikTok, which is at Cocktails with James. If you would like to know and follow my personal life, it is James Alan on Instagram and TikTok as well. You can see everything I'm doing. That's not just to do with Cocktails with James. Obviously, if you want to write in for any confessions, anything you want to write in for the world to know and get anything off your chest, please do so as well. You'll find everything in the link below for the description as well. So honestly, thank you, Connor. It's been so good. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And I can't wait for everyone to get to listen to this.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me, James. It's been such a pleasure. Really enjoyed it.